Hi friends, good evening. Welcome to free YouTube session on revision of SA 600, 610 and 620. So today we'll be revising your SA 600 series. Now 600 series is using the work performed by others. 600 series is using the work performed by someone else. So we have three standards. 600 using the work of another auditor. Another auditor will mean your branch auditor or a subsidiaries auditor. 610 using the work of internal auditor, and 620 is using the work of expert. Expert over here is auditor's expert. Okay, so 600 series, 600, 610, 620 is using work performed by someone else. Okay, I hope I am properly audible and visible. If yes, just give me a thumbs up. If yes, just give me a thumbs up and we move ahead. Hi Prem, thank you. Now, before I move ahead, I'll just introduce you to a new feature which is launched at Unacademy. The new feature which is launched at Unacademy, I just take out that new feature. We have came up with a feature called raise a hand and a voice chat. You see, whenever you're taking live lectures at Unacademy, this is YouTube session to just introduce you to our style of teaching. More such free lectures, yes, more such free lectures are already there on Unacademy app. So on Unacademy app, you have special class which are free and you have plus subscription which are the paid one. There are lots of free classes over there. In case you want to revise up the subject of auditing, so many free lectures are already put up over there. New feature which is added is raise a hand. So whenever we are taking such kind of live classes, you can just raise your hand and you can ask a doubt via voice chat. So it's similar to your Zoom wala thing. The voice chat say you can ask the doubt whenever we are having this live sessions going on. Second feature which we have introduced is we have established a full dedicated team for doubt solving. If at all you're watching lectures later on, recorded ones, and you get some doubt, you can put up your doubts. We have a dedicated doubt solving team there for you. Ask doubt anytime, anywhere. Sir, what are the rates? Subscription. Now see, CA Final Group 1. I take two subjects in CA Final Group 1, that is your FR and Auditing. Now, normal batch of mine, the complete batch, that is also available. The crash course, or you can say fast track course, that is also available. From tomorrow, I'm starting a fast track course of CA Final FR. The financial reporting, I'm starting a fast track course from tomorrow. The regular course or the complete course is already going on. Auditing, the complete course, fast track course, both are completed. FR regular course is going on. Fast track course, I'm starting from tomorrow. And the subscription, if you take up a 12-month subscription for CA Final Group 1, it will cost you monthly rupees 1688. Just monthly rupees 1688, and you can use code Yeshas Live, you get 10% discount. Imagine, by amount of rupees 1500 a month, you are able to cover up your CA Final coaching. It's actually less than your stipend. Combo subscription for CA Final Group 1 and Group 2 is also available. You can just check out the rates on Unacademy app. And we came out with the Iconic subscription. What is this Iconic? Under Iconic, we have additionally what? We have physical material for you under Iconic. Plus subscription, you get an ebook. Iconic mein you get a physical book. Second, test papers will be there with evaluation. The evaluated test papers will be there in Iconic, and we'll assign you a mentor. 1:1 mentorship program is also there. So under Iconic, you get that benefits additionally. So just decide whether you want a plus subscription, Iconic, choose it, and we are there to help you crack your CA final exams. Now let's move ahead to today's topic. Now we go ahead to today's topic. Three standards we are required to do. 600, 610, 620. Always start by seeing the heading. SA 600 is using the work of another auditor. A question arises, what do you mean by this another auditor? Question arises, what do you mean by this another auditor? The another auditor will mean your branch auditor or your subsidiaries auditor. It is a branch auditor or a subsidiaries auditor. Now imagine you are an auditor of HO, or I can say entire company. Branch is audited by someone else. I am an auditor of the company as a whole. Branch audit is done by someone else. Question, would I report only on HO or would I report on the entire company including branches? I am a company auditor, branch auditor is someone else. Would I report only on HO, or would I report on the entire company including branches? You need to reply. See, more you are active, more you'll enjoy the session. So, sir, we need to report on entire company including branches. Okay, I am reporting on entire company including branches. Would I check the branch again? No, branch is already audited by someone else. I will rely on the report submitted by them. So I'm using the work of a branch auditor. I'm using the work of a branch auditor. I'll be reporting on a company as a whole. Branch is audited by someone else. I'll be using their work. Similarly, when you're auditing a consolidated financial statements, when you're auditing a consolidated financial statement, you will be reporting on the entire group. You will be reporting on an entire group. Now, parent you might have audited, subsidiaries are audited by someone else. The parent we might have audited, but subsidiary is audited by someone else. And in your CFS, how are CFS prepared? Parent plus subsidiary ke figures. The subsidiary were audited by someone else. We will report on the entire group. Will rely on the report given by subsidiaries auditor. Okay. So this essay is applicable whenever a principal auditor uses the work of branch auditor or a subsidiaries auditor. Principal auditor uses the work of a branch auditor or a subsidiaries auditor. Okay, sir, suppose we have joint auditors. What is joint auditors? Two or more auditors for one company. Company is one, but auditors are two or more. Does this apply? SA 600 apply in case of joint auditors? No. For joint auditors, we have a separate standard, that is SA 299. So this is only for branch auditor, subsidiary auditor. So check over here. Another auditor as per this standard refers to branch auditor or subsidiaries auditor. Now, I just ask you a simple question. You are reporting on entire company including branch. You are reporting on entire company including branch. Branch was audited by someone else. Now, later on, if a fraud is discovered in branch, would the principal auditor be held responsible for it? Later on, a fraud is discovered in branch, would the principal auditor be responsible for it? Okay, Prem says yes. See Prem, over here, SA 600 will clarify whether we are responsible for the work done by branch auditor or not. But just imagine, branch auditor will also be a chartered accountant. Branch auditor will also be a chartered accountant. I'm using his work. Here he has checked it. If later on a fraud is discovered in branch, only he will be responsible, not me. Sir, kahan likha hai? It will come up. It will come up. So we will not be responsible. We will not be responsible for the work performed by branch auditor unless if there was doubt, suspicion regarding the work performed by him. उसके वर्क पे डाउट था and still we relied on him, then we'll be responsible. Unless there was a circumstances creating a doubt or suspicion about his work and still we relied on him, then we'll be responsible. Otherwise, we are not responsible for the work performed by the branch auditor. Now, suppose entity comes up and says that, sir, we want to appoint you as a principal auditor. The company comes up and says that, sir, we want to appoint you as a principal auditor. My question, if someone tells me that we want to appoint you as a principal auditor, should I directly say yes or should I see certain matters? Which factors consider karenge before accepting the audit as a principal auditor? Should I see certain matters or should I directly say yes? Yeah, sir, leke aa jao. We always see some factors. Now see, whenever you are acting as a principal auditor, you should be performing the major work. Whenever I am a principal auditor, I should be a kind of doing a major work. If suppose subsidiaries are bigger, or say for example the branches are bigger, I can tell them, sir, give me the branch also. So don't appoint me just as a principal auditor, also appoint me as a branch auditor for one or two branches. I should be sufficiently involved in audit. It should not be like I am a principal auditor, but my report is based on entirely branch auditors only. What I am doing is just a negligible work. Parent, the HO was only 5%, branches was 95%. Imagine you are doing audit only of 5%. 95% you're relying on someone else. That should not happen. Better tell them to give you some branch audit as well. This was a question asked in May 21. This was a question asked in your May 21 examination. if at all they ask you to accept position as a principal auditor, what you should do? What you should do? For this purpose, the auditor will consider the materiality of portion which the principal auditor audits. How much portion I am auditing? What is my knowledge regarding the business of components? Branches का work कैसा है, क्या है? What is my knowledge about it? Then the risk of material misstatement in components. If component में risk is higher, branches में risk is higher, to rely on someone's work, yeah, that's not good. The better is I should be doing such kind of work. I should be handling the branches also. And additional procedures which I can do to ensure I am sufficiently involved in audit. Additional procedures which I can do to ensure I am sufficiently involved in audit. Imagine if they want to appoint me as a principal auditor, should I directly say yes? No. There are certain factors we'll consider before accepting appointment as a principal auditor. One, what is the proportion of audit that you handle? HO is how much, branches are how much. What is your knowledge about branches? What is the risk involved in branches? The risk of material misstatement in branches is how much? And fourth, what are the extra procedures I can do to ensure I am sufficiently involved in the audit? So this all things I'll consider and then decide whether I should accept appointment as a principal auditor. Did you understood this? This is something new. Probably you would not find in any other materials. Yeah, if you open up any material, some reference book also, probably this point will not be there. This was asked in May 21 examination. Okay, next. Now, what should be my procedure? What should be the principal auditor's procedure? Now, pay attention. I will be relying on the work performed by branch auditor. I'll be relying on the work performed by branch auditor. Can I guide the branch auditor the manner in which audit should be done? Can I guide the branch auditor manner in which audit should be done? Yes. Yes. Okay, should I tell him the accounting requirement, auditing requirement, or any special requirement? Like suppose Caro is applicable or not, should I tell him so that he will also report on 21 matters of Caro? Yeah, Caro 16 has 16 matters, Caro 2020 has 21 matters. So do I need to tell him, sir, Caro is applicable, include the report on Caro matters also? Sir, Ind AS is applicable for company, check as per the Ind AS. So do I need to communicate to him significant accounting, auditing and reporting requirement? Yes. So can you guide the branch auditor? Yes. Should you communicate to him the significant accounting, auditing, other reporting requirement? Yes. Should you communicate to him the timetable for completion of audit? By which date the branch auditor should complete the audit? Should I communicate that to him? Yes. Okay. If branch auditor has done the work, can a main auditor visit branches? They have a separate branch auditor. Can a main auditor visit the branches? Yes. Can I have access to branch records? Can I have access to branch records? Section 143 subsection 1 Companies Act. Section 143 subsection 1, the principal auditor has a right to access branch records. Branch auditor doesn't have a right to access HO's record. But our principal auditor has a right to access the branch record. So I have a right to visit branches. I have a right to access branch records. I also have a right to conduct a supplementary or a test audit. So what's this supplementary and a test audit? Supplementary is something extra, additional. The branch auditor has done his work. I can do some additional checking, whatever I want. And test audit is nothing but going and checking the work performed by the branch auditor. Going and checking the work performed by the branch auditor. So what are the principal auditor's procedure? What are the principal auditor's procedure? See, you will be normally entitled to rely upon the work of branch auditor unless there are circumstances which makes him essential to visit the branches or examine the books himself. Unless there are special circumstances which makes it like I should visit or I should only check it, then you do it. Otherwise, you are entitled to rely on the work performed by the branch auditor. Now, when you are planning to use his work, whenever you are planning to use the work of branch auditor, okay, should you check his professional competence? Whether that guy has a competence to do the audit properly? You check his professional competence only if He is not a member of ICI. If he's a member of ICI, ICI has checked his competence, तभी उसको CA बनाया. So you check his professional competence only if he is not a member of ICI. This will be in case of a foreign branch. This will be in case of foreign branch. India ki branch may not possible. It will be in case of foreign branch. Okay, now this point is important. This point is important. The principal auditor should perform procedure to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that I need to do procedure to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that the work performed by branch auditor is adequate for my purpose. Uska work barabar hai, uske liye I should do some procedure. So what procedure I can do? One, I can advise the other auditor. I can tell him what is the use of his work and report which I want to do. And I can tell him the areas where he has to take special care. I can inform the audit matters such as areas which require a special consideration. The important things I can tell him, sir, focus on this, focus on this. Simple words, you can guide the branch auditor. Second, you can communicate the timetable for completion of audit. You can communicate the timetable for completion of audit. You can advise him the significant accounting, auditing requirements. Significant accounting, auditing and reporting requirements which are there, and take it in writing that he has complied with it. And take it in writing that he has complied with it. So we want to understand, being a principal auditor, I'm relying on the work of branch auditor. I want to be sure that his work is adequate for my purpose. For that, I can guide him, the manner in which audits to be done, which are the important areas he need to take care, what is the time limit for completion of audit. Plus, I can also tell him the significant accounting, auditing, reporting requirement and take a confirmation that he has complied with it. And you might discuss with other auditor the procedures to be applied, and or review a written summary of other auditors' procedures, or you can just tell him, you can tell the other auditor to fill a questionnaire or a checklist. I can prepare a checklist. This is very good. I can prepare a checklist, whether you covered this, he will reply. The other auditor will reply, and based on the replies of checklist, I can understand whether his work is adequate or not. Okay, now I tell you, in your CA final, questions are very cornered. If question comes, how will you evaluate whether the work performed by other auditor is adequate for your purpose? How will you evaluate whether the work performed by other auditor is adequate for your purpose? I need to answer this, the point which I have ticked. This point and the next point. So these 2 points I need to answer. If question is, how will you evaluate the work performed by other auditor is adequate for your purpose? If question comes, if the company wants to appoint you as a principal auditor, what factors will you consider before accepting appointment as a principal auditor? What factors I'll consider before accepting appointment as a principal auditor? There were 4 points, A, B, C, D. See, 4 points are there, write 4 points. They don't want general answer. The problem with us is we write very general answer, 4 points, 4 marks, just write that. Okay, moving ahead. The principal auditor should consider the significant findings of other auditor. He can consider the significant finding of other auditor, and he may also decide to do a supplementary test of the records or financial statement of component. You can do some additional checking as well. Okay, the principal auditor should document in his working papers the components which are audited by someone else and the significance of that financial statement to entity as a whole and the names of other auditor. So keep it in documentation. Kya document karo? That sir, this many branches were audited by other auditor, the names of other auditor and unka significance compared to the overall entity. So significance of that branches covers a turnover of this much, that branches covers a profit of this much, that branches covers a cash flow of this much compared to overall entity. That you should document it. And whether the other audit report is other than unmodified. Okay, now where the other auditor's report is other than unmodified. What do you mean by other than unmodified? branch auditor has given other than unmodified report. Other than unmodified means modified. The simple words mean that is modified. If branch auditor has given a modified report, question, do I also need to give a modified report? Modified includes qualified, adverse, disclaimer, anything. So if branch auditor is given a modified report, do I also need to mandatorily give a modified report? Yes, no. No. I need to consider the materiality of that thing for a company as a whole. So something might be material for branch, may not be material for the overall company. The principal auditor should document how he has dealt with such qualification while forming his report. He should document how he has dealt with. If branch auditor gave a modified report, what did I do with it? Did I also give a modified report? I did not give a modified report. That I need to document it. There should be a good coordination between both the auditor. Coordination means sufficient listening, written two-way communication. Well, listening means you have a proper communication. Written two-way communication should be there between them. The other auditor should bring to the immediate attention of principal auditor any significant findings at branch. The other auditor should bring to the immediate attention any significant findings at branch. And the other auditor should coordinate with the principal auditor. The other auditor should coordinate with the principal auditor. Sir, how to coordinate? Making sure the branch audit you complete within the deadline given. Any significant thing you find at branch, you communicate to the main auditor. This is nothing but you should coordinate with the principal auditor. Okay, now comes your division of responsibility. Now comes division of responsibility. Whether principal auditor is liable for the work performed by other auditor? No. No. Check. The principal auditor would not be liable. Principal auditor would not be liable for the work entrusted to other auditor. For the work entrusted to other auditor, I would not be liable except in circumstances that should have aroused suspicion. There were circumstances which should have aroused a doubt in your mind regarding the work of branch auditor. Circumstances were there which should have got a doubt in my mind that his work is not reliable, and still you relied, then you will be responsible. Otherwise, practically you are not liable for the work done by branch auditor. Yeah, he is also CA. He only will be responsible for his work. Okay, and you need to clearly state the division of responsibility in your report. So whenever you are writing your audit report, whenever you are communicating your audit report, you should clearly write this many branches were audited by other auditor. We have relied on the report given by them, and try to quantify this many branches having a turnover this much, profit this much, cash flow this much, net assets this much, were audited by someone else. We have relied on the report given by them. Now question, they say that there were circumstances which create a doubt in your mind that his work is not reliable. There were circumstances which create a doubt in your mind that his work is not reliable, and still you rely, you will be held responsible. The question, I don't want to rely on his work. I feel his work is not proper. I don't want to rely on his work. Now what should I do? If the principal auditor feels the work of branch auditor is not reliable, तो क्या करेगा? I feel his work is not reliable. Then I should go and check it. Sir, I don't have a time. I should go and check it. Now I don't have a time to go and check it. So can I say we are unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about the branch? So I can't rely on his work. I don't have time to go and check it myself. So can I say we are unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence about the branches? Yes. So what should I do? Give a modified report. And see, whenever you are unable to obtain evidence, the possible effect can be material but not pervasive, or the possible effect can be material and pervasive. See, you are unable to obtain evidence. आपने check in नहीं किया. You don't know the effect. The word will be possible effect. Possible effect is material but not pervasive. Give a qualified report. Possible effect is material and pervasive. Give disclaimer of opinion. Check. What is written? When the principal auditor concludes that, work of other auditor cannot be used and you don't have time to do additional procedures yourself, additional procedure yourself, you should give either a qualified or a disclaimer of opinion. You should give a qualified or disclaimer. If possible effect material but not pervasive, qualified. If possible effect material and pervasive, disclaimer. Did you understood this? Oh yeah. This was your SA 600. This was your SA 600. To which questions can come? If I just think from a student's angle, which are the questions that can come in examination? 1. They want to appoint you as a principal auditor. What are the factors you consider before accepting the position as a principal auditor? That's 1. Second, how will you evaluate that the work performed by other auditor is adequate for your purpose? That can be the second. And do I need to bifurcate in my report how many branches are audited by someone else? Yes. You need to mandatorily write this many branches were audited by someone else. We have relied on the report given by them. Okay, let's see some questions. B is a principal auditor of ABC Company Limited. 8 branches audited by 8 branch auditor. You are a principal auditor, 8 branches audited by 8 branch auditor. Now, he insisted on branch auditor to get familiar with the checklist he had prepared. He wanted the branch auditors to follow the checklist what he had prepared for branches, and he required them to share the working papers. Okay, now can a principal auditor ask for the working papers of branch auditor? Can a principal auditor ask for the working papers of branch auditor? Okay, Prem says, of course, Prem. If you go to SA 230, SA 230 is on working papers, documentation. As per SA 230, working papers are the property of auditor. Okay, the same way, branch audit ke working papers are the property of branch auditor. Branch audit ke working papers are the property of branch auditor. Principal auditor cannot tell him to give me the copies of working paper. No. See, yaar, he is a chartered accountant. Don't doubt his work. And you are not responsible for his work. If you are not responsible for his work, how he has done the work, you don't worry about that. So can I ask for the working papers of branch auditor? Answer is no. You cannot ask. He may give at his own willingness. आपने request किया, he is not bound to give you the copies of working paper. But I tell him to fill a checklist. Is he bound to fill the checklist and give it to me? I tell him to fill a checklist. Is he bound to fill a checklist and give it to me? Yes. That he is bound. And I have a right to get a copy of report. The branch auditor has to submit a copy of report to the main auditor. I cannot ask for the copies of working paper. Okay, the check. Is principal auditor within his right for asking such working papers? Answer will be no. If you just go down, the answer will be no. The principal auditor is not within his right. He is not within his right for asking for such sharing of working papers. He is not within the right for asking for such sharing of working papers. Did you understood this? I can tell him to fill the checklist. That is fine. He can fill the checklist. But I cannot tell him to share the copies of his working paper. They are his property. He may give at his own willingness. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2. RN Company is a statutory auditor of S Limited. RN Company is a statutory auditor of S Limited, and they're given in the notes to accounts. What they have given? The State Pollution Control Board has ordered closure of company's only manufacturing plant. Oh, company has only one manufacturing plant, and the State Pollution Control Board has ordered to shut down that plant on the ground that they are damaging environment. And pending the outcome So the outcome is pending. This litigation is going on. The accounts were prepared on a going concern basis. Now, can I say there's a material uncertainty related to going concern? Can I say there's material uncertainty related to going concern? The Pollution Control Board is ordered to shut down the only manufacturing plant you have. You're gone for appeal. You're gone for appeal. The litigation is going on. Now, if you lose the case, you have to shut down. If you win the case, you'll continue. So that's a material uncertainty related to going concern. Now I have a question. If there is a material uncertainty related to going concern and management has disclosed it appropriately in financial statement, the management has written it appropriately in financial they've written that there's a litigation going on. If we lose the case, we may not remain a going concern. Question: which type of report should I give? There's a material uncertainty related to going concern adequately disclosed by management in financial statement. Which type of report I need to give? They've adequately disclosed in financial statement. Which type of report should I give? Unmodified or modified? Okay, so I need to give unmodified report. Yes, I need to give unmodified because it's appropriately presented, disclosed in financial statement. But the matter is very important. It's a matter related to going concern. I can draw attention to matter by putting one extra para. That para ka heading will be material uncertainty related to going concern. If management has appropriately disclosed it in financial statement, I will give a clean report with one extra para drawing attention of the users to that material uncertainty related to going concern. Okay, the unmodified with one extra para drawing attention. Okay, this is SA 570. Now what is second question? Further, the financial statement include financial statement of certain branches which were audited by other auditor. What are my reporting responsibility? One, as per SA 570, if that material uncertainty is adequately disclosed in financial statement, I have to give a clean report with one extra para drawing attention to that material uncertainty related to going concern. This is as per SA 570. And there are certain branches audited by someone else. There are certain branches audited by someone else. If there are certain branches audited by someone else, I need to write down in my report, this many branches were audited by other auditor. We have relied on the report given by them. Now, Prem has quoted over here, sir, SA 706. SA 706 is emphasis of matter, other matter para. Whenever I draw attention to something which is there in financial, whenever I draw attention to something which is there in financial, we call it as emphasis of matter para. It's already there in financial, we are drawing attention. We call it as emphasis of matter para, but Prem, under SA 570, we have this thing material uncertainty related to going concern para. So this is not as per 706. It is similar to emphasis, but it's not as per 706. This extra para is as per SA 570. Are you clear, Prem? This is we are emphasizing, but it's not as per 706. It will be covered under your SA 570. Okay, so I just go down directly to SA 600 part because 570 we are not doing it currently. So directly go to 600 wala part. So as per SA 600, you should clearly state the division of responsibility. This many branches were audited by other auditor. We have relied on the report given by them. We have relied on the report given by them. Okay, this is SA 600. Now going to SA 610. 3 standards to be done, 1 over, 2 more to go. 3 standards to be done, 1 over, 2 more to go. Next, SA 610. Now, this is a very interesting essay. SA 610, using the work of internal auditor. Using the work of internal auditor. Now, I have a question. Can statutory auditor and internal auditor be the same person? Can a statutory auditor be the internal auditor? Can a statutory auditor also be the internal auditor of the same company? No, you're not allowed. Section 144 doesn't allow you to become an internal auditor if you're a statutory auditor of that company. Okay, I understand internal auditor will be someone else. I understand internal auditor will be someone else. Now, what is the role of internal auditor? The internal auditor works for management. The internal auditor is appointed by board of directors. He's working for management and pay attention. Pay attention. What work he will do is decided mutually between the management and the internal auditor. So he is a management's guy and he'll more focus on the internal controls of the company. Whether the internal controls of the company are proper or not, he'll be checking internal controls in much more detail. Now question, as a statutory auditor, do I also need to check the internal controls? As a statutory auditor, do I also need to check internal control? Yes, sir. We also need to check internal control. Why? See, if controls are good, chances of frauds and errors are less, the other procedures I can reduce. If controls are not good, chances of frauds and errors are more, other audit procedure I need to increase. But depending on how are the controls, I will decide what should be my other audit procedure. And sometimes, under your section 143 subsection 3 clause number I, under your section 143 subsection 3 clause I might be required to report on IFC, internal financial control. So I check control to decide what should be my other audit procedure, and sometimes I also check control to give a report on IFC, whether the internal financial controls are proper or not. Now tell me, I have to check control to decide my other audit procedure. Who has already checked controls in detail? Who has already checked controls in detail? Sir, the internal auditor. He has already checked controls in detail. So rather than me checking again, can I rely on the work performed by internal auditor? So rather than me checking it again, can I directly rely? Internal auditor says control of sales are good. So I'll check sales less. He says controls of purchase are weak. Oh, I check purchase more. So can I directly rely on the work done by internal auditor rather than me checking controls again? If you want, you can rely. If you want, you can rely. Now, if I rely on the work of internal auditor and later on some issue came up, can I say I relied on him? If I rely on the work of internal auditor and later on some fraud, error is discovered, can I say I relied on him? No, you can't say that. When you rely on internal auditor, the whole responsibility is only on you. The sole responsibility of audit is on you only, even if you rely on internal auditor. Now, just think about branch auditor. Just think about 600. When I rely on the work of branch auditor, for the work performed by branch auditor, I am not responsible. जो उसने किया था उसके लिए I was not responsible. But over here, if I rely on internal auditor, I have to rely at my own risk. The sole responsibility of audit is on me only. Later, I cannot say I relied on him. If you want to rely, you rely, but that's at your own risk. Okay, now the one question is, some work is done by internal auditor. Can I rely on the work done by internal auditor? As such, yes, responsibility is only yours. Now, second thing, internal auditor did checking of 10 areas. Internal auditor has done a checking of 10 areas, and areas which you would have checked would be said to him by management. The management told him to check 10 areas. He has checked 10 areas. Now, can I tell internal auditor to check 11th area for me? So, can I tell internal auditor to check 11th area for me? For management, he has checked 10 areas. For management, he has checked 10 areas. Can I use the work performed by him? Yes, you can use the work performed by him, but risk is yours. Now, can I use him to check 11th area for me? Can I do that? Answer is yes. Prem, answer is yes. You can tell him to check 11th area on your behalf. Now he's working for you. So, sir, do I need to pay him? Yes, you may pay him. Do I need to pay him for the 11th area? Yes, you may pay him. So now he's working as your assistant. So can I use internal auditor to provide direct assistance to me? Can I use internal auditor to provide direct assistance to me? Answer is yes. But this essay tells you which areas you can use, which areas you cannot use. Tell me areas where risk is very high. Areas where risk is very high. Should I tell him to check it on my behalf or should I check myself? Areas where risk of material misstatement is high. Should I tell him to check on my behalf or should I check it myself? Wahan pe you should check it yourself. So can I use internal auditor to provide direct assistance to me, check 11th area for me? Yes, you can do it. It's allowed. Sir, which areas I can do? That all will be covered in this standard. Okay, this standard covers two things. This standard covers two things. One, using the work performed by internal audit function. They've already checked 10 area. I want to use their work. The work which they've already done, I want to use that using the work of internal audit function. And second, using internal auditor to provide direct assistance, telling them to check 11th area for me. Dono ke liye this standard is applicable. Okay, now check. So this standard is applicable only if they have an internal auditor. If they don't have an internal auditor, this standard doesn't apply. This standard doesn't apply if entity does not have an internal audit function. Now, the external auditor has the sole responsibility for the opinion expressed, and the responsibility is not reduced by using the work of internal audit function or by using internal auditor to provide direct assistance to you. Even if you use their work, the responsibility is solely on you. Okay, now check the objectives. Check the objectives first. Check the objectives. Number one, to determine whether the work of internal audit function, and I directly go over here, can be used. To determine whether the work of internal audit function can be used. Now they have checked 10 areas. Can I use any of their work? Whether the work of internal audit function can be used. Now, or now to determine whether is common, direct assistance from internal auditor can be used. This is point 1 yahan pe, this is point 2. Two things are there. To determine whether the work of internal audit function can be used, the work which they have already done. The work which they have already done. Can I use their work? And second is basically to determine whether direct assistance from internal auditor can be used. So can I use them to do some extra checking on my behalf? Can I use them to do some extra checking on my behalf? This was to determine. If yes, to which areas, what extent? If so, agar use kar sakta hu kahan pe? Now tell me one thing. If I am using the work of internal audit function, if I'm using the work of internal audit function, do I need to evaluate whether their work is adequate for my purpose? If I'm using the work performed by them, do I need to evaluate whether their work is adequate for my purpose? Yes or no? Do we need to evaluate whether their work is adequate for our purpose? Yes. So check over here. If using the work of internal audit function, we need to determine whether their work is adequate for our purpose. And now, if I'm using them to provide direct assistance, they've checked 10 areas for management. I want them to check 11th area for me. Now question, if they are working on 11th area for me, can I say they are working as my assistant? Do I need to direct, supervise, review their work? They are checking 11th area for me. Do I need to direct, supervise, review their work? Yes, no. Yes, sir, that also needs to be done. So check over here. If using internal auditor to provide direct assistance, we need to appropriately direct, supervise, review their work. So there are actually 4 requirements. Ye objective tha. Every essay has an objective, and to fulfill objective there are requirements. So what are the 4 requirements over here? First, to determine whether the work of internal audit function can be used. If so, in which areas, what extent? To determine whether the work of internal audit function can be used. If using their work, How will we determine the work is adequate for our purpose? That's second point. Third, to determine whether direct assistance from internal auditor can be used, if so, in which areas, what extent. And if using direct assistance from internal auditor, how will you direct, supervise, review the work? That's your fourth requirement. If you see the requirements over here, there are 4 requirements given over here. Check first one. Determining whether, which areas, what extent the work of internal audit function can be used. So determining whether, which areas, what extent I can use their work. Now, if using, what to do, that's a second requirement. When using the work of internal audit function, what to do? I need to evaluate their work is adequate for my purpose. Third, determining whether, which areas, what extent direct assistance from internal auditor can be taken. Determining whether, which areas, what extent internal auditor can be used to provide direct assistance. And now fourth, if using them to provide direct assistance, now what to do? If using them to provide direct assistance, what to do? And lastly, do your documentation. Okay, so there are 4 requirements given over here. Again, there can be 4 separate questions. You need to understand what is asked. You need to understand what is asked and answer accordingly. Okay, first, determining whether, which areas, what extent work of internal audit function can be used. First, I come to whether. First, I come to the word whether. So, determining whether work of internal audit function can be used. So, whether I can use their work or not, uske liye, you need to understand how do they do the work. Just tell me one thing. If you feel internal audit function, the internal auditors, those people who do internal audit, they are competent. There's a very good team of internal audit. Okay, if it's a good team of internal audit, would you use their work? If there's a good team of internal audit, would you use their work? Yes, sir, I'll use their work if they're a good team. Second, if I tell you that internal auditors work objectively, unbiasedly, they directly report to top level people. They work unbiasedly. The status of theirs in organization, they report directly to top level people. So their organizational status in the organization and the policies, procedure followed by them support objectivity. If they're working objectively, would I use their work? Yes. But if I feel they work biasedly, I'll not use their work. And third, do they have a systematic and disciplined approach? Imagine an internal auditor has a systematic, disciplined approach. Every month, they take up 2 controls. Just 2 controls. Every month, they take up 2 controls. That 2 control, they check it in detail. Next month, again another 2 control. Next month, again another 2 control. So they have 2 controls every month. Check it in detail. So if they have a systematic and disciplined approach, would these procedures followed by them, does it support the objectivity? Are they working objectively, unbiased? Objectivity, that is ability to work unbiasedly. Okay, next. The level of competence, how are the people in internal audit team? And whether they have a systematic and disciplined approach. If they have a systematic and disciplined approach, yes, I can rely. So in deciding whether to use their work, I will see their organizational status and the policies, procedure. Are they able to work objectively? Second, I'll see the people who are in the internal audit team. Are they competent enough? Just a minute, I need to charge my battery. And third one, do they have a systematic and disciplined approach? Do they have a systematic and disciplined approach? This is what I'll see to decide whether. Now there's one more thing. Now there's one more thing over here. ये whether हुआ. Now there's one more thing. In which areas, what extent? There's one more thing. In which areas, what extent? एक है word whether. Second है in which areas, what extent? Now, which areas, what extent? तो उसके लिए I need to understand the areas what they have covered. Which areas I can use their work, what extent I can use their work. So I need to understand the work which is covered by them. So this is determining Nature and extent of work. This is which areas, what extent. This is which areas and what extent I can use their work. For deciding which areas, what extent, I need to understand the work done by them. So you need to consider the nature and scope of the work performed by internal audit function, what work they have done, and now should I rely so much on them or should I rely less on them? What do you feel? They are management people. They are management people. You should rely more on them or less on them. आपको क्या लग रहा है? They are management people. Should we rely more on them or less on them? Sir, less on them. This essay also says that you should plan to use less of their work and do it more yourself. And even after using, you should be sufficiently involved in audit. Even after using, you should be sufficiently involved in audit. And if you have decided you want to use their work, if you plan to use their work, before using their work, communicate with TCWG once. So communicate with TCWG the planned use of internal audit function ka work. Okay. So determining whether I can rely, whether ke liye what I should do. Whether I can rely on them, I need to understand whether they are working objectively, do they have a competence, do they have a systematic and disciplined approach. This is determining whether. Now, which areas, what extent? So I need to understand the nature and scope of the work performed by them. I need to use less of their work, do it more myself. Even after using their work, I should be sufficiently involved in audit. And if I am planning to use the work, before I use, I need to communicate to TCWG the planned use of their work. Okay, so this was determining whether, which areas, what extent I can use their work. Now, second objective is using the work. पहले था determining. अब I am using the work. Now what should I do? Now I am using the work. What should I do? पहले था determining whether to use. Now we are using the work. Just go up and highlight the word determining. पहले determining था. Now I am using. Now I'm using the work. Do I need to understand that their work is adequate for my purpose? If I'm using the work, do I need to understand that their work is adequate for my purpose? मेरे purpose के लिए उनका work adequate है या नहीं? Yes. Sir, how will I do that? How will I do that? I need to understand whether they, not me, whether I'm using their work and I need to evaluate unka work is adequate. So I have to see whether they had properly planned, directed, supervised, reviewed, documented the work, whether they have obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence, and whether the significant points which came up, they have concluded it properly. So I'm just trying to understand whether they did the audit properly or not. If they did the audit properly, that's adequate for me. How do I understand whether their work is adequate for my purpose? So pay attention. If I'm using the work, I need to discuss the planned use of the work with internal auditor, and you should read the report of internal auditor. You should read the report of internal auditor and you should perform sufficient procedure. You should perform sufficient procedure on the work of internal auditor to use that you will use to determine whether they are adequate for our purpose. We need to do some audit procedures on the work of internal audit function as a whole that we plan to use to determine they are adequate for our purpose. For that, what shall we do? We need to see whether they had properly planned, supervised, directed, documented the work, whether they obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence, and the conclusion reached by them is appropriate, not by me. I want to use their work, to whether they had properly planned, directed, supervised, reviewed the work, documented the work properly, whether they had obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence, and the conclusion reached by them are appropriate. Did you understood this? We are trying to determine adequacy of their work for our purpose. We are trying to determine the adequacy of their work for our purpose. Now question. If I rely on internal auditor, does it mean that I would not do anything else? If I rely on internal auditor, does it mean that I will not do anything else? If I'm relying on him, does it mean I will not do anything else? No, I may also do something else. I may also be doing something else. So see, the nature and extent of external auditors procedure, nature and extent of kiska procedure, external auditors audit procedure shall be. So what I need to do depends on, one, the judgment involved. Tell me, if there's an area where high judgment is involved, together with relying on them, I may also do something else, or I may not rely on him. Okay, area where risk is high. If risk is high, I may not rely on him, I will do it myself. Third, whether they are able to do it objectively and do they have a level of competence for that work. Now, I am using that particular work. Out of 10 works, I want to use only 2 works. Out of that 10 work, I want to use 2 work. Now, 2 work I am using. What should I do additionally? It will depend on judgment involved. It will depend on risk involved. It will depend on whether they did it objectively and whether they had the competence to do it properly. Based on that, my procedures will be decided. Did you understood this? I am relying on them. Together with that, what should be my procedure depends on how much is the judgment involved in area, how much is the risk involved in area, were they able to do it objectively, and whether they had a competence to do it properly. This is basically your second requirement. Using the work of internal audit function, we need to evaluate their work is adequate for our purpose. Now third, determining whether, which areas, what extent. Determining first whether, which areas, what extent we can use internal auditor to provide direct assistance. Pehle determining whether I can use internal auditor to provide direct assistance. Now tell me, this is we want him to check 11th area for us. Okay, if you feel he will not be able to work objectively, should you use him to check 11th area? If you feel he will not be able to work objectively, should I use him for checking that 11th area? No, sir, because he will not be able to work objectively. Second, if I feel he does not have a competence, should I use him to check that 11th area? I know he doesn't have the competence only. Should I use him? No. So again, answer will be no over here. So to decide whether I should use or not, I need to evaluate the existence and threats. To objectivity and level of competence. Would he be able to do it objectively, and does he have a competence? These are the 2 important things. Would he be able to do it objectively, unbiasedly, and does he have a level of competence? So you should not use when there are significant threats to objectivity and he lacks competence. You should not use him to provide direct assistance if there are significant threats to objectivity and he lacks competence. Now, determining which areas, what extent. That was whether. Now, which areas, what extent. That was whether. Now, which areas, what extent we can use the work of internal audit function. Uske liye I need to consider the area which I can give them. Uske liye I need to see the judgment involved, the risk involved, objectivity and level of competence what he has. See, if area has higher judgment, should I give it to him or do it myself? If area has higher judgment, should I give it to him or do it myself? Sir, myself. If area is higher risk, should I give it to him or do it myself? Do it myself. Okay, I need to consider these 3 things, and clearly they have written you should not use them to provide direct assistance. Kahan pe? you should not use them to provide direct assistance where the judgment involved is high, significant judgment, risk of material misstatement is high. Third, I cannot tell them to check the work what they have only done. I cannot tell them to check the work what they have only done. So I cannot use them to check the things which are related to work with when they were involved. They were only involved. उन्होंने ही किया था. I cannot tell him to check their work. And fourth, I cannot tell them to take a decision which I have to take as per this standard. I cannot tell them to take a decision which external auditor has to make in accordance with this essay. Okay, now tell me, in this essay, which decision you have to make? In this essay, which decision you have to make? How much to rely on internal auditor? I cannot tell internal auditor, आप ही बताओ how much I should rely on you. I cannot tell internal auditor, sir, you only tell me how much I should rely on you. That should not be there. No, no, no. So over here, I cannot tell them to take a decision which I have to take as per this standard. Okay, so where I cannot use them, where judgment involved are high, risk involved is high, work has been done by them only. I cannot tell them to check their work only. And the fourth one, decision which I have to make as per this standard. Wahan pe I cannot use them. Okay. And if I am using them to provide direct assistance, communicate with TCWG before you use them. Communicate with TCWG before you use them to provide direct assistance. Okay, Prem has a question, sir. Everything is opposite to internal audit function. Prem, actually it's not opposite. If you try to see internal audit function also, to determine whether I can use the work of internal audit function, wahan pe, over there, I was checking objectivity, I was checking competence, and I was checking do they have a systematic, disciplined approach. Here also, whether I can use him to provide direct assistance, here also I check whether they have the objectivity, whether they have a level of competence. If there are significant threats to objectivity, or if they do not have a level of competence, I will not use them to provide direct assistance. So you might feel common points here. You might feel some common points are there. But when I'm using them to when I'm using the work performed by them, I need to evaluate the work is adequate for my purpose. If I am using the work performed by them, I need to evaluate the work performed by them is adequate for my purpose. But yahan pe, when I'm using them to provide direct assistance, I need to direct, supervise, review their work. Okay, one more thing. If I am using them to provide direct assistance, this 11th area they're checking for me or for management. Frame this 11th area they're checking for me or for management. किसके लिए कर रहे वो? They're checking for me or for management. Sir, for us. हमारे लिए they're checking that 11th area. So can I take a representation from management that they will not interfere in between? Because this he is checking not for them, he is checking for me. So should I take a representation from management, they will not interfere? Yes. Should I take a representation from the internal auditor that he will maintain confidentiality? Yes. And I need to direct, supervise, review his work. If I am using his work to provide direct assistance, obtain agreement from the management, they will not intervene. Obtain agreement from internal auditor, they will keep the matters confidential, and you direct, supervise, review the work of internal auditor. So this is when you are using them. पहले determine करना था, determining whether, which areas, what extent I can use. And now when you are using, take it in writing from management, they will not interfere. Take it in writing from internal auditor, they will maintain confidentiality. And third, you direct, supervise and review their work. हो गया खत्म. Lastly, do your documentation. Done chhe. So SA 610 is also over. In your 610, there can be 4 separate questions. First, what are the audit procedures to determine whether, which areas, what extent we can use the work of internal audit function? What are the audit procedures while using the work of internal audit function? What are the audit procedures in determining whether, which areas, what extent we can use internal auditor to provide direct assistance? And fourth, what are the audit procedure while using internal auditor to provide direct assistance? 4 separate question can be there. Requirement 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you understood this? Did you understood this? Thank you. Now I just go to question number 3. Just go to question number 3. 1 and 2 are fine. It's just a theory. Question number 3. Mr. Anand is appointed as statutory auditor of Xerox. We are appointed as statutory auditor of Xerox Limited. And Xerox Limited is required to appoint an internal auditor as per the Companies Act. And they have an internal auditor, Mr. Bhanu. Mr. Bhanu is the internal auditor. You are appointed as statutory auditor. The external auditor asked internal auditor to provide direct assistance to him for evaluating significant accounting estimates. Okay, first, can I use internal auditor to provide direct assistance? Can I use internal auditor to provide direct assistance? Yeah, that is possible. But regarding significant accounting estimate, is it allowed for significant accounting estimate where significant judgments are involved? Can I use them? No, sir, यहाँ पे I can't use them. यहाँ पे I can't use them. And similarly, just a minute. My system is hang. Just 1 minute. So one is this regarding this significant accounting estimate, and second they've written is assessing the risk of material misstatement. Assessing the risk of material misstatement. The pen has stopped working. Okay, I don't know, but my pen is not working. I'll just do it normally. I won't be able to mark the things. Okay, pay attention. One is regarding this significant accounting estimate, and second is regarding assessing the risk of material misstatement. Can I use them for that area? No. See, you are allowed to use them, but where risk is high, then significant judgments are involved, such areas may you cannot use the work of internal audit function. That areas you cannot use the work of internal audit function. Okay, let's go down. Okay, this was your SA 610 going to SA 620. I know there's a bit lag coming in video. I don't know what's the reason. Probably some problem with my system. Prem, is it audible properly? Is it audible properly? Is it audible properly, Prem? On the reply, please. Am I audible properly? Okay, thank you. Now moving ahead, it's using the work of an expert. Now they've written clearly using the work of an expert. Expert over here means auditor's expert. Expert over here means auditor's expert. There can be two types of expert: management expert, auditor's expert. Management expert helps the management. Pay attention. Management expert helps the management in preparation of financial statement. For preparing financial statement, that's a management expert. Auditor's expert helps the auditor in obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. is helping the auditor in obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. For example, many times you go for doing an audit and suppose inventory is in WIP. Inventory is in WIP and you're not able to understand the stage of completion. Inventory is in WIP, you're not able to understand the stage of completion. So for helping you in audit, you might take a help of some engineer to help you what is exactly the stage of completion. Many places complex valuations are involved. Many places complex valuations are involved. You're not comfortable with the valuations, you can take the help of expert. The management expert is a person who helps management in preparing financial statement. Auditor's expert is a person who helps auditor in obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Am I clear with this? Okay, now while preparing financial statement, provision for gratuity. While preparing financial statement, provision for gratuity, management takes the help of actuary. For making provision for gratuity, management is taking the help of actuary. So that actuary is a management expert, is helping management in preparing financials. Now tell me, while doing audit, pay attention. While doing audit, you had a doubt that the actuary figures what management has put over here, I feel wo barabar nahi hai. So can I use another actuary? Can I use another actuary? Can an auditor use another actuary? I am not satisfied with the figure of actuary which management has put in. वो मुझे doubt लग रहे हैं. So can I use another actuary? Yes, you can use another actuary. Now this actuary is used by auditor to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So this second actuary, he is auditor's expert. He is not management expert. The first actuary was management expert who helped management in preparing financial. But the second actuary is auditor's expert who is helping the auditor in obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Clear with this? Now, expert, the auditor's expert or management expert will be a person who is an expert other than in the field of accounting and auditing. Will be a person who is an expert other than in the field of accounting and auditing. So see clearly written, other than accounting and auditing. He will be expert other than in the field of accounting and auditing, and we are using their work for what purpose? For obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Now I have a question. See, most of the companies now use their own softwares for accounting. They have their own softwares for accounting. Many times you might find SAP. SAP is kind of coordinated ERP. All divisions of your company, they are coordinated. So we need engineers. We need actually the computer engineers to check the softwares. We need computer engineers to check software. Imagine Deloitte. Deloitte has employees who are computer engineer. Deloitte has employees who are computer engineer. So together with chartered accountants, some engineers also go and they evaluate the software of the company. Now question, we have computer engineer as our employee only. Would they be covered under definition auditor's expert? I have employees who are computer engineer possessing skill other than in the field of accounting auditing. They are my employee only though. Would they be considered in auditor's expert? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. Auditor's expert may be an internal expert or he may be an external expert. Auditor's expert may be an internal expert or he may be external expert, anything. Now sir, if I rely on the work of expert, and later on a fraud is found in their work, would I be responsible? If I rely on the work of expert, later on a fraud is found out in their work, would I be responsible? What do you think? Would I be responsible? Yes, because you selected expert. Yeah, if you choose a wrong person, वो आपकी गलती है. If you are choosing a wrong person, that is your fault only. The sole responsibility of audit is only on you. Okay, so same as internal auditor. If you rely on internal auditor, the sole responsibility is on you. If you use the work of an expert, the sole responsibility is on you. You choose an expert. If you are choosing a wrong guy, that's your fault. Okay, the check over here. The sole responsibility for audit opinion expressed is on the auditor, and it is not reduced by using the work of an expert. If you use the work of an expert, the responsibility is not reduced. The responsibility is still yours. Okay, I told you every essay has an objective, and to fulfill objective, there are requirements. Okay, this essay, there are two objectives: determining whether we need expert. That's one. And second, if we are using the work of expert, we need to determine whether their work is adequate for our purpose. तो पहले expert चाहिए कि नहीं? पहले expert चाहिए कि नहीं? And second, if I need expert, I need to evaluate their work is adequate for my purpose. Coming to requirement. Requirement number one. Determining need to use the work of expert. Determining whether we need an expert or not. Now tell me one thing. There's an item which is complex one. If item is complex, then we need an expert, or if item is simple, then we need an expert. When do we need expert? Item complex है या item simple है? Fast. When do I need expert? Item is complex or item is simple? Sir, complex. So if nature and complexity of item, so one, it depends on whether I need expert or not, depends on nature, complexity of item. Tell me, for material items, you will take the help of expert, or for immaterial item, you will take the help of expert? Sir, material. The second, it depends on materiality. If item is material, it is complex, I may take the help of expert. Third, if I have other audit evidences available, which proves this figure, then I may not take the help of expert. But if other audit evidences are not available, then I may take the help of expert. So third, it depends on the other evidences available. So whether you need an expert depends on materiality of item, nature and complexity of item, other audit evidences which are available. So whether we need an expert or not depends on following things. Now, together with expert, what should be the nature, timing, extent of your audit procedure? Okay, you are taking help of expert. Does it mean that if you are taken help of expert, you will not do anything? No. So what should be the nature, timing, extent of other audit procedures of ours? Now tell me. You have worked with expert last 10 times. And his work was precise, very accurate. If his work was precise, very accurate, you may not do anything extra. But you worked with the expert last 10 times, 10 में से 2 times his opinion was wrong. 2 times his report had some mistake. If 2 times his report had some mistake, then in that case you will also do something else. So whether I need to do something else together with expert depends on factor. Which factor? 1. The nature of matter. If matter is subjective, you can write matter subjective. If matter is subjective, his opinion, my opinion, other experts' opinion can be different. It is possible, even while using his work, I may also take a help of another expert, or I may also do something else. The nature of matter. If matter is subjective, I may take the help of another expert also, or I may take some other things also to be checked. Second, the risk of material misstatement. If risk of material misstatement is high, I will not rely only on expert, I will also do something else. Third, the significance of experts' work in context of audit. Now tell me, if I tell you the overall audit becomes based on experts' opinion. अगर मैं आपको बोलूँ कि पूरा audit उसके ही opinion पे base हो गया, okay, so would you also try to do something else? Do you want that your overall audit is just based on his opinion? नहीं यार, I don't want such thing. Overall audit should be based on my opinion. वो expert ने बोला वैसा opinion नहीं होना चाहिए. So if the work what he is performing is very, very significant, then in that case I should also do something else, and something else can be hiring another expert as well. Okay, Prem has a question, sir. What is the exact meaning of nature? I'm not comfortable with the word. See, nature of matter. Matter कैसा है? For example, matter is subjective. Subjective माने prone to different judgments. तो ये चीज में someone's judgment, other person's judgment can be different. That's called as a subjective matter. More the matter is subjective, more procedure you should do. वहाँ पे more risk is there. So it is possible this expert has one opinion, another expert may have some another opinion also. So better to consult two experts or better to do something else. Are you clear, Prem? One, the nature of matter. Second, the risk involved in the matter. Third, the significance of the expert work to overall audit. It should not be like for overall audit, his work is the only important thing. No, no, no. I don't want such thing. For overall audit, my work should be important, not his. Uska work is just a part. If such is the thing, then in that case, I should also do something else. Fourth, the previous experience with the expert. What is the experience with the expert you have in past? Past may you worked with him, his work was precise, 100% accurate, you will do other things less. But previously you worked with him, you found out problems in his work, then you may also do something else. And the last one, whether expert is subject to quality control procedures of your firm. अब ये क्या है? Expert is subject to quality control procedures of your firm. Expert is subject to quality control procedures of your firm. Now, sir, what is this quality control procedures of my firm? If you just recall SA 220, if you just recall your SA 220, the heading was quality control for audit work. The CA firm should have the policies. The CA firm should have a policy for direction, supervision, review. CA firm should have a policy for accepting new client, continuing old client. CA firm should have a policy for ethical requirements, including independence. So you have your own policy. If you follow that policy, you get a sufficient, appropriate, reasonable assurance that the things are working fine. Now tell me, you appointed an expert. You wanted to understand what he does. So you stayed with him every time. You tried to stay with the expert every time, so you are able to see his work. And when I'm able to see his work, I get a confidence he's working properly. But now, after 5-10 minutes, the expert is telling, sir, don't stick to me like a dog. Please don't stick to me like this. I will do my work, I'll finish up and give you my report. Don't come with me everywhere. Or don't be having eyes on me. So I wanted to stay with him, understand how he does the work. He does not allow me to do it. Now tell me, if he doesn't allow me to do it, would I have a doubt on his work? He's not allowing me to stay with him. So would I be relying more on him or would I be relying less on him? Sir, less on him. But if at all I stay with him, he explains me each and every procedure. I stay with him, he explains me each and every procedure what he's doing, then would I be able to rely more or less? If I stay with him, he explains me each and every step he does, and now I feel very confident about his work. If I feel very confident about his work, then I may not do something else. Whether he follows our quality control procedure. If he follows our quality control procedure, I can trust more him, I can trust him more, and I do other things less. But if at all he doesn't follow my quality control procedure, then I will trust him less and I'll also do something else. I hope you're clear with this. What should be the nature, timing, extent of other procedures? What should be the nature, timing, extent of other procedure if you are using the work of expert? Now third, before you appoint expert, check his competence, capability, objectivity. Before you appoint expert, check his competence, capability, objectivity. Understand the field of expertise. So competence, capability, objectivity, unbiased attitude. Would he be able to work unbiasedly? And also check his field of expertise. Now, if I ask you, who is expert in GST? Who is expert in GST? People will say, sir, chartered accountant. Now, all chartered accountants are not expert in GST. I know many chartered accountants working only in Ind AS side. I know many chartered accountants working only in company audit side. I know many chartered accountants working only in GST side. So few of them might be expert. So don't just go by degree. Also see the field of expertise. So before appointing, You need to check competence, capability, objectivity, understand the field of expertise, and you need to enter into an agreement with expert. While appointing, you have to enter into an agreement with expert. Now, sir, why you should have an agreement? The agreement will be of what all things? You shall agree in writing on the following matters. Which matters? 1. Nature, scope, objective of his work. The roles and responsibility. How he has to give the report, the form of communication, and he need to observe confidentiality. So we need to agree in writing for following thing: nature, scope, objective, roles and responsibility, how he will be giving the report, the form of report, and he will be having access, the expert will be having access to our client's data. He should not be communicating the client ka confidential information to anybody else. So he has access to our client's data. He should not be communicating that to someone else. Now pay attention. What is the next question they are telling? The following factor suggest need for a more detailed agreement. The following factors suggest a need for a more detailed agreement. Now if question comes, it's always better to have an agreement with the expert. Which are the factors which suggest a need to have a more detailed agreement? This is the answer. Need to have a more detailed agreement. So now, 1. Expert will have access to sensitive data of client. Client ka data is very sensitive data. So I need to have a more detailed agreement telling you will have access to very sensitive data. Please make sure you're not leaking it anywhere. 2. The roles and responsibilities are not as usual, they are different. So 1, he is having access to sensitive data of the client. 2, the roles and responsibilities are different than what are normally there. As they are different, more detailed agreement required. 3, multi-jurisdiction legal regulatory requirement apply. The company operates in 5-10 countries. So multi-jurisdictional legal or regulatory requirement is applicable. So I need to clearly tell all that things to him. Matter is highly complex. If matter is highly complex, so again more detailed agreement required. I have not previously used the work of expert. You're working with him for the first time. If you work with someone for the first time, should you have a detailed agreement? If you're working with someone for the first time, should you have a detailed agreement with them? Yes, sir. So see, this is what they're telling. So following factors suggest a need for more detailed agreement. And last, the greater the extent of auditor's expert work and its significance to the audit. If his work is more significant to audit, I should be having उसका work बहुत significant है तो बहुत बड़ा मतलब you have a detailed agreement with him. So need to have a detailed agreement arises कब? When he will have access to a sensitive data of our client. 2, the roles and responsibilities are different than what are usual. 3, multi-jurisdiction law or legal requirements applies. 4, the matter is highly complex. We are working for the first time. Or last one, they're telling the greater the extent of auditor's expert work. If he is covering a large area, I should have a detailed agreement with him. Okay, now you appointed him. You entered into agreement with him. He'll do his work. He will do the work. Okay, should I blindly trust the expert's work? Should I blindly trust the expert work, or should I check the data, method, assumption used by him are proper or not? Should I check the data, method, assumption used by him are proper or not? Yes, sir, definitely we have to check to evaluate the adequacy of his work. So you need to see the relevance and reasonableness of experts' finding and your consistency with other audit evidence. Is it matching with your other audit evidence? 2, the assumptions method used, are they reasonable? Assumptions method used are relevant and reasonable. The source data used is relevant, complete, accurate. So I need to first understand the relevance, reasonableness of that expert's finding and consistency with my other audit evidence. Together with expert, I will also have done something else, whether both are matching or not. Plus the method used by him, the assumption used by him, the data used by him, are they all relevant, proper or not? Now, if you feel, pay attention, if you feel the work of expert is not adequate, if you feel the work of expert is not adequate, what you should do? If you feel the work of expert is not adequate, if the auditor determines that the work of expert is not adequate, what shall I do? Talk with expert only. What extra things we can do? Agree with that expert on nature and extent of further work to be performed by that expert. What extra work that expert can do. And second, you can perform any other further audit procedure appropriate in circumstances. So whenever you feel his work is not adequate for your purpose, this is auditor's expert. Auditor's expert is SA 620, management expert is SA 500. If I feel his work is not adequate for my purpose, what should I do? What should I do? One, I need to talk with that expert only about the further audit procedures which can be done. And second, I can do any other procedures whichever I feel appropriate in circumstances, including hiring a new expert. If you have, you can just write over here, including hiring a new expert. Now question, if I use the help of an expert, can I write in my report? Can I write in my report that I've used the work of this expert? Like whenever you are having the work of branch auditor, you are writing this many branches were audited by other auditor. When I use the work of expert, can I write it in my report that I have used the work of expert? Okay, unmodified report you cannot write. Unmodified report you cannot write. Modified report you may write his name. But by writing the name, the responsibility is not reduced. The whole responsibility of audit report is on you only. If some problem is discovered later, shareholders will file a case against you, not against that expert. Okay, so can I write the name of expert in my report? Clean report? No, you cannot write it. Modified report. In modified report, can I write? Yes, you can write, but by writing their name, the responsibility is not shifted. Now question. SA 610 using the work of internal auditor. When I'm using the work of internal auditor, can I write in my report I've relied on the work of internal auditor? While using the work of internal auditor, can I write in my report that I've relied on the work of internal auditor? No. So whenever you use the work of branch auditor, you have to write this many branches audited by someone else, mandatory to be written. When you use the work of internal auditor, you cannot write it. When you use the work of an expert, clean report, you can't write it. Modified report, you can write, but by writing, the responsibility is not shifted. Are you clear with this? This was actually your SA 620. I take few questions. I'll just take few questions. Question number 1. Now see, management have used management expert. When management has used management expert in preparing financial statement, whether auditor should also use an auditor's expert? Now management has used management expert. They have used an actuary for making provision. Should auditor use his own actuary? तो क्या मैं अलग से अपना actuary use करूं? Depends. Audit में nothing is yes, no. It depends on factors. Sir, which factors? 1. The nature, objective, scope of management expert. Whether auditor should also use his expert depends on certain factors. Which are the factors? 1. The nature, scope, objective of management expert's work. Whether the management expert is employed by the entity. Whether the management expert is working independently. Whether the management expert has a competence capability. Yeah, if he has competence capability, if he has worked independently, then I may not hire another expert. But if I feel he has not worked independently, if I feel he doesn't have a competence, then I may take another expert. Any controls which within the entity over the management expert's work, are there any controls to ensure the management expert ka work will be proper? If there were good control to ensure management expert ka work is proper, I may not do other thing. Then I'll basically rely on him. So when management has used management expert, should I also use another expert? Depends on certain factors. I hope you're clear. Uttam Kumar is telling, sir, I watched your fast track lectures. It was best and thought too deep. Thank you. Thank you so much, Uttam. I tell you, the fast track course which we take, the coverage in that fast track course is too much exhaustive. Even if you are not attended a normal batch, just you have done a fast track batch, it will be sufficient for your examination. Your personal recommendation will always be to attend the complete batch. But if by chance you did not have time and you attended only the fast track batch, that coverage is also sufficient for your examination. And not just to pass, but to get exemption as well. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2. Dabu has been appointed as auditor of MAP Technocraft Limited to conduct a statutory audit. While conducting statutory audit, he come across some difficulty. He decided to take services of Mr. Jay, a consultant. Okay, now state the procedures which Dabu should follow to evaluate adequacy of his work. Okay, how will I evaluate adequacy of the work of expert? Requirement number 6. How will I understand the adequacy of his work? I need to see the relevance, reasonableness of his work and whether it is matching with my other audit procedure. Then the data used by him, the assumption used by him, the method used by him, they are all proper or not. This is actually your, how do I evaluate the adequacy of his work? That is the answer. Moving ahead, question number 3 is fine. Question number 3 is fine. Going to question 4. Question number 4. X Limited had a net worth of 1300 crores because of which Ind AS are applicable. They have some various derivative contract, options, forward, interest rate swaps, etc. And the statutory auditor of the company involved an auditor's expert. You got an auditor's expert. The auditor and auditor's expert are new to each other. Okay. If at all we are new to each other, do we need a more detailed agreement? The auditor and auditor's expert are new to each other. Do we need a more detailed agreement? Do we need a more detailed agreement? If at all we are agreeing for the first time? Yes. So now check over here. The auditor did not enter into any formal agreement with the expert. You did not enter into any formal agreement with the expert. Now, as you are doing first time together, we hired the expert first time. We need actually a more detailed agreement and we did not enter into an agreement. This is based on your requirement number 4 or 5, which was related to agreement. In certain situation, you need a more detailed agreement. And usme one of the point is you have not worked previously. So in current question, you have not entered into a formal agreement. That's wrong. Auditor should enter into a formal agreement. Auditor should enter into a formal agreement. And then question number 5. Then your question number 5. KRP Limited at its AGM appointed XYZ as joint auditor. You appointed XYZ as the joint auditor and everybody had a doubt regarding the actuary's provision, the provision for gratuity, etc. of management. So they decided to have their own actuary. Now there are 3 joint auditor. All 3 joint auditor came up with their own actuary. So there are 3 joint auditors. XYZ are joint auditors and they wanted to refer for valuation of gratuity. They wanted to refer to their own actuaries. And subsequently, major difference were found in the actuary reports. Mr. X and X agreed to Y's actuary report. Z did not agree. Okay, so they came up with their own actuary. So there are 3 joint auditors. We are not trusting the management's actuary. We decided to have our own actuary ko will appoint. We are consulting our own actuaries, and X, Y, Z, 3 auditors, all 3 consulted their own actuary. X agreed to Y actuary's report, but Z did not. Now question, if at all 3 joint auditor, 1 auditor is not agreeing, okay, so can I say majority agrees? So should I give one report what majority says? In case of joint audit, should I give one report what majority joint auditors are telling? No. If you don't agree, you can give your own separate opinion. If you don't agree, you can give your own separate opinion under your joint audit. So what happened over here? X and Y, they came out with one report. Z came out with his own separate report. Explain the reporting responsibilities when the auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Actually, there are 6 situations. In your essay 299, they've given you 6 situations where the joint auditors are severally and jointly responsible. And guide Z in this situation. What is the Z should do? The Z should give his own separate report. So Z should be giving his own separate report. So Z is suggested to express his own opinion through a separate report, whereas X and Y can have their own report. X and Y can come up with their one together report. Now there's one more question asked. Later on, if report made by Y's actuary was found faulty. Okay, now Y ka actuary ka report was found faulty. Now X and Y, they had a common thing. X and Y had accepted a common report. Z came out with his own separate report. If Y ka actuary's work was faulty, X and Y will be responsible, not Z. Sir, why not Z? Because Z has already given his own separate opinion. If Y's actuary ka report was faulty, it will be duty of X, Y, Z before using this to ensure the reasonable, that's okay. And यहाँ पे X and Y will be held responsible for gross negligence using faulty report without examining them. Z will not be liable because he has given his own separate opinion. Z will not be liable because he has given his own separate opinion. Did you understood this? X and Y, see, X agreed to Y's actuary report. X had agreed to Y's actuary report. So X and Y both have used Y ke actuary ka report. As they both used it without checking data, assumption, method, they both will be liable. Z did not use their report. Z has given their own separate report. Did you understood this? Did you understood this? Okay, so this was your SA. This was your SA 600, 610, 620. Now, Prem had a question that, sir, in the question which we discussed last, in the question number 2 which we discussed last, there are changes from the requirement. Now, see, one thing, Prem, most of the answers you might have it from the requirement, but in your essays, there is also application and explanatory material. So sometimes question may not be from the bare text, question may be from application and explanatory material. Let me just read this question again. Now, if you just read the question, what specific procedure? Now, what specific procedure CA Dabbu should follow to evaluate adequacy of the work performed by Mr. J? Okay, what specific procedure? So, uske liye there will be a thing given in your application and explanatory material. See the specific procedure. This is the specific procedure to evaluate the work of. This is the specific procedure to evaluate the work of expert. 1. Inquire, make inquiries with expert. Review his working papers, reports. Corroborative procedure. Corroborative means his work you try to tally with your work. His work you try to tally with your other works. Is it matching or not? That is called as corroborating. Discussion with some another report. Another expert ke saath you discuss to understand whether this expert ka findings are proper or not. and discuss the expert's report with the management. So these are specific procedures you can do. Now see, question was procedure. If at all normal layman में क्या था वो, if at all you go to that point number 6, how will I evaluate adequacy of his work? How will I evaluate adequacy? I need to see his work is consistent with my other evidences. I need to see data, method, assumption used by him is proper or not. So that I need to see. Which procedures I'll do to see it? ये which procedures है? The word procedure was very important. Make inquiry with the expert. Second, review the expert's working papers report. Try to match it with your other evidences we obtained. Discuss these things with other expert. Discuss the expert's report with management, and this is how you are able to evaluate whether his work is adequate or not. Are you clear, Prem? This was a specific question. Please make sure that sometimes questions are from application explanatory material. You're doing it properly. Okay, that's it. We are keeping our session till here today. Just one sentence for you. Just one sentence for you. See, many times we tend to take the things lightly, and because of that, we tend to have troubles later on. And we feel that things are difficult because we have taken it in a lighter manner. They say that everything appears to be difficult. Everything appears to be difficult if you are lazy about it, but the same thing appears to be easy if you are crazy about it. Everything appears to be difficult if you are lazy about it. If you are lazy about things, you don't take care of important words, important terminologies, it will always look difficult to you. But the same thing will be easy if at all you are crazy about it. If I have something in mind, I want to do it, and I'm fully involved in that, definitely that thing will never be difficult to you. It will always look easy because mentally you are there for doing it. The first thing is prepare your mind. You have to do this and give your full efforts to it so that you're able to finish off the thing in a style. Any doubts anybody are having, please tell me. And I tell you, lots and lots of free classes are there on Unacademy app. You can come to that app, use code Yeshas or Yeshas Live. You will have access to hell lot of resources. So many lectures are there. I tell you, for auditing only, I have taken a full revision of professional ethics, company audit, all essays. The revision of professional ethics, company audit, all essay, that all is available on Unacademy app, free mein. They are special classes, not the plus subscription. Anyone having any doubts, anything you want to ask, please tell me, else we leave the session and we'll meet again after some time. Any questions you want to ask? Thank you, Uttam. Thank you, Pakish. Thank you, Prem. Okay, just one special thing which I wanted to tell you. From tomorrow, I'm starting a fast track batch of FR. And in that fast track batch of FR, few topics I'll put up in that special class. Imagine financial instrument. The fully financial instrument will be in your special class. Same way deferred tax. So in Ind AS 12, that Ind AS 12 will be in your special class. The few important topic where students have a problem, I'll put it in special class which are free. In case you feel you are a bit weak in that important topics, you can attend it for free live on Unacademy app. Sir, uska schedule kaise aayega? I'll put up on my Telegram channel. Please be there on my Telegram channel. I'll put up all the free schedules, whatever are coming on that Telegram channel. And tomorrow, I'm starting fast track batch of FR plus subscription mein. Okay, that's it. See you all next time. Bye-bye. Take care and all the best. Study well.